Yeah. So this was the analysis link. Now we are going to go to the part that, okay, if you have this kind of a framework or your decision tree ready, then how do you feed it into Claude and you get this kind of a dashboard, which is actually fetching that data, right? So going back to the deck, let me just go to the slide of in Claude, what is there. Now I'm going to talk more about Claude, right? So that was the marketing decision framework that we discussed, right? Now, how do we create that machine? So before we talk about Claude, there are a few things that you need to know or understand about Claude clearly, right? So how does Claude work and all? Now, like for example, we create Google documents, right, or a Word doc where we document whatever information we want, or we read PDFs, etc. Similarly, for Claude, what is defined as a markdown file, and I'll show you an example of a markdown file, but and markdown file is what it refers to when it has to read anything, right? CLAUDE.md is like a guidelines document. So every folder that you work within Claude, in Claude Cowork and all, that is the guideline document, because whenever you start any action, it will read that as a project memory. So within that project, there is one file which is called CLAUDE.md, and it will always read that file before starting any work, right? And then there is SKILL.md. So what I'm going to show is an example of SKILL.md file where I've fed this decision tree into Claude to get this kind of a skill. Now, the skill that builds this dashboard, it pulls ad level data via Meta Ads MCP. So, so the first thing that we need to understand is what is Meta Ads MCP. So, in case of agentic systems, just a show of hands, how many of you actually have worked with Meta MCP in Claude or any other agent? Okay, two. Okay, cool. So at least two of you have know what Meta MCP is. Does anyone of you want to share for the larger group what Meta MCP is, and then I can show that?
It's basically connecting Meta Ads Manager with Claude through their own API.
Right. So now see an example of this conversation. You can see the screen, right, where I'm showing the Claude screen. Yeah. So I've just asked Meta MCP, check VaanarStack Zmot account. Okay, this is the account that I use for my ads. Like a lot of you registered via the ads that I was running on Meta, right? And it gave me the data of it. I have not opened my Meta Business Manager. I have not gone to reports or anything. It has just fetched that data and told me that this campaign that we ran, we spent some 4,800 rupees. We got 61 qualified leads at 80 rupees, right? And there is one other campaign that I'm running. It gave me result for that as well, right? I asked also, can you pause all campaigns? Because of course I'm doing the webinar now, so I don't want to be running this campaign. And it just did this action and created it. Right now, if I just ask, can you share last week's performance day by day for the webinar campaign, right? It is going to fetch that data and show me that that analysis or that those results over here, right? So basically, what is before Meta MCP? What is MCP? MCP is a general protocol that all these softwares are coming up with, which agentic systems can use to call any tool. So like Meta has defined MCP as a model context protocol, which Claude or Codex or any other OpenAI or any other agentic system can interact with it. They have defined the rules how to interact and fetch that data, right? And the good thing for us is that we don't need to know that, right? What is the protocol that Meta has defined for Claude? We don't need to know. We can prompt, like you ask, let's say you are a business leader and you ask your analyst, okay, can you tell me this data? That's exactly what I showed you in the conversation, right? Then it is going to show that data. Now just look at it. So if I just asked, can you share last week's performance day by day for the webinar campaign? It pulled all these data points with spend, impression, clicks. I didn't even define that I want these metrics, right? But it pulled all these data points and is showing me what happened in the last 7 days and all, right? So it is very powerful. And this is a very simple example of what can be done. What eventually you would do is that you create like the kind of decision tree that we showed, and you will give that as rule for Claude to build a dashboard on it, and then you would like schedule it like weekly or daily analysis so that you are able to get this report on a daily or weekly basis, right? So that's the beauty of this Meta MCP platform. How do you connect it? It is very simple. Um, uh, so there is, if you see my screen, I'm going to this customize option, right? Within customize, there's this thing called connectors. Now in connectors, you can see I have connected a lot many things. Yeah, I'll be sharing the recording, Fazan. You can see that there are a lot many things. This is a Meta MCP. Now, just to show you the process, I'll just disconnect it and connect it again, right? So I'm going to copy this link before I disconnect it because I will be needing that to connect it. So let me just disconnect this now. So how do you reach this page? You just need to get this link and you just search for Meta MCP. You will get this link very easily, or it's there in the, I'll be sharing after the call as well with everyone. And you can just go and connect for it. It will ask for your login. So it is opening my Claude's interface for getting that login in, right? I'm just saying reconnect, and it is connected. It already took my password because I was signed in to the browser, but it will ask you for a password, etc., and it already connected. Now, after the connection is done, there's something important that you need to see. One is if you see these tools that are there, like creating ads. Okay, let me close this. Right. So these tools that are there, interactive tools of always allow and everything, right? You can change that. So typically for read-only tools, I do it always allow. Otherwise, Claude is always going to ask you before doing this, and you might not be able to set a schedule because by definition, you are telling that before fetching any data, you need to ask me. So if you keep it in, like, let's say custom, etc., it will always wait for your approval. Even though you have told him to send that report, it will show you an interface, allow this to do it. Whereas write and delete, I would keep in custom because I want more control over it. I don't want to make any changes as yet, but I'm okay in terms of fetching and reading any data, right? So that is what the power of this Meta MCP is. And once it is connected, just what you saw just now, right? We did this check, etc. is something that can be done, right? Now coming back to like how do we create that kind of a complicated dashboard, right? So this part I explained you that meta ads, etc. So it computes the hook, hold rate, CVR, etc. All the metrics that we have defined, it is going to compute that, and it is going to apply that decision tree as it is. Now, how does it know what is the decision tree, right? So let me just go back to Claude and show you the skill.md file. Now, this window has some problem because it was not working properly. Let me see if it opens. Yeah, it is opening now. So you see this, I have opened this skill.md. I just tapped on the skill.md. Now, this is the main document that it uses. And as I explained, it is a markdown file, right? So it is using this main document to understand what it needs to do. And there is a basic description of it, but then there are different rules which are defined that what arguments need to be passed with respect to meta ad account and all. So step 0 is resolve the account, which account is being used. In case the skill is called and it does not know, it will ask you what account to use. Pull ad level data. So if within ad level data, it is pulling all these clicks, CTR, etc., and everything. Notes that will bite you, right? Results or cost per result and all. So it is also giving it itself disclaimers in terms of what could be possible issues that can come in, right? Compute the derived metrics. So hook rate, hold rate, you see what we are generally defining. It is calculating all these. Grade each ad based on the cost per result and all, and the metrics and all that we defined. All that we defined in the decision tree, you can see that it is written in a plain word kind of a file, which is called a markdown file for agents. It is defined over here, and it is going to use this file to create the skill, right? So that's, and once this file is created, your main framework is created, Claude can actually wrap this up in minutes, right? So it can actually do all of these interactions, etc., in minutes and create it and classifies, and it then renders the dashboard, right? So I wanted to actually run the skill, but I'm seeing my system is loaded a bit, so I'll not run it in real time because it will just probably stop the recording, etc. But when you run the skill, it just loads the dashboard autonomously pulling all that data. So we saw very clearly that it has no issues in pulling that data. What the decision tree is giving is the input on what data to pull, how to analyze, then it will create a dashboard for you, right? So the main part, what is required is the decision tree, right? The decision tree that we created, this one. And if let's say you already have an audit report or structure that you use in your daily work, you can just give that document to Claude and ask it to create a skill.md file based on that document. It will read and create it, right? So you don't need to do that over work of creating your templates and your work, etc. Again and again. It can just take all that in and create that as well, right? And this is the workflow in which it creates it.